still think it's a farm deer. Giant. All right, guys.
$3.
One day.
Same tree.
Oh my God, I'm so cool.
Woo!
Holy shit! Get a shot of these.
2 farms this year. Number 1 is done.
Did you say bye, Kevin?
I did. I already did. Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Kevin.
Smoked it, buddy. Look at that. You destroyed it.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. All right, guys. Welcome to the Deer Shop podcast. I'm not sure what episode this is because today we are starting our whitetail series. We're filming this mid-April. It might be airing early June sometime. And we're also not in the deer shop today if you're watching on
May.
YouTube.
It's definitely mid-May.
What did I say, April? Did I say April?
Said April.
It's May. It is not
Yeah,
April.
it's summertime out. Almost.
It's actually warm. It's very hot today.
Yeah.
It's very warm today. Sorry. It is mid-May. This might be airing in June, though. I'm not sure on the order of airing from when we are recording, so I'm not giving it an episode number. And we're not in the deer shop. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that we are in a new location. We got some elk here behind us. Today, we are sitting down with Nico Hadgis. Did I say that properly?
Yes, sir.
Nico Hadgis, in a place that he calls the Lodge. This is his family and his deer and turkey outfitting operation. I know some people are going to be listening and be like, outfitting? You guys hate outfitters. But we're actually going to be talking about some stuff that's not totally dealing with the actual business of outfitting. Nico is local to us. I won't give away exactly where, but it wasn't a far drive. He runs some clients through here, and they're hunting the same type of deer and turkey terrain and habitat that we all are if you're listening to this podcast and you're a Northeast Ohioan. I'm sure there's some stuff we're going to learn today and some tactics, and we'll bounce some stuff back and forth. But I won't ramble on too long here in the beginning. I'll let Nico introduce himself and kind of give just a little breakdown on where we're at, what we're doing, what you do here. Kind of introduce yourself to the audience.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm Nico Hadgis, and I'm pretty local to these guys. I found Caleb on Facebook there. I think you're probably part of that Medina.
I run the Medina County Hunters.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
He's the guy.
I'm the guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the one who started that. Yeah.
He's the one that started that shit show.
Yeah, that's something else we can talk about later.
When they banter about that that event that gets held, who's allowed, who's not allowed, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyways, we'll get into that later if you're listening. We'll definitely get into that later. Let me write that down.
I listened to the podcast with Chris talking. You guys had mentioned that it's hard finding content, people to talk to, and all that stuff. So I thought I'd reach out as somebody with a lot of experiences and, has kind of made a little livelihood out of hunting.
Yeah, that's perfect for us.
And we're glad you did. This place is a hidden gem that I would have never realized that was where we are.
I like to keep it that way.
It looks like a lodge that you'd come to in Montana, basically.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, you already saw the intro video, and we're going to walk around and kind of give you guys a little view of this place. But yeah, having something like this close by is a nice change of pace for us. It's 52 podcasts a year is a lot, and there's only so much me and Isaac and me and Ethan and my brothers can sit there and talk to ourselves about ourselves, and it's great to get out and have some new guests on. And
yeah, you'll be welcome anytime. And like I said in the messenger, it's deep respect to you guys for trying to do this once a week. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
We've actually lately we've kind of been not getting at each other, but we've been. Hey, we podcasting today? No, I'm busy. No, I'm doing this. Hey, we podcasting today? No, and it's like, damn it, we need to push it off. So one of these days we need a podcast, guys, and I bring it up a lot. We've only missed 1 week out of the last. We've recorded 43 podcasts and we've only missed 1 week.
Yeah, so we'll be coming up on a year this summer, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
but we were talking about the lodge. What is this? Probably like 3,000, 3,500 square feet?
Yeah, like before we added all the walls, it was 3,900 square feet.
Okay.
I want to live here.
Yeah, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths.
I could raise my family here. Really
Wait until you sit on those couches. I'll come in all the time. There's people passed out on there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, naps are the way to go when you're in a hunting camp.
So I don't have any experience with outfitted hunts and lodges and stuff, but this is exactly what I would want.
We've had some bachelor parties in places like this, though.
Yeah.
And we always rented some cabins or gone on trips.
You got Airbnb this thing out.
We do.
Off season.
Actually.
Perfect.
Yeah. My fiance started that during the eclipse thing.
Do you guys have security cameras in here?
They are getting posted this summer. Not in here. They're going to be on the exteriors. But
Okay.
yes, that is definitely coming now that she started doing that.
Yeah, because this place is awesome. You did a good job.
And I do take some of the stuff out of here. Like, I don't leave the sheds in here.
Yeah, that'd be kind of hard.
Yeah.
That's now that you bring this up, it'd be kind of. I wouldn't want to be leaving my sheds around because you wouldn't notice one or two missing after a while, and then
and until 20 of them are missing.
Yeah,
The door that is across from the door you went in to get in here, that locks. So
okay, yeah.
yeah, very cool. But back to your business and what you do out of here.
Yeah, so this is just a real small outfitting operation. It's not, the stereotypical outfitting situation. I do more of like a high quality, low volume, very highly managed farms that we own all of them.
You can't see it, but there's a map behind where the cameras are. There's what is it, about 10 different property maps there on the wall?
There's 9 of them,
which
yeah.
is pretty cool. I like that.
And so everything's very highly managed and highly controlled, and there's no lease farms yet, although I hope to.
So
one
these
day.
are all farms that you own or your family owns?
Yes, yep.
Oh, wow.
We're going to have to talk to you about financials later.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Everything was bought pre.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is your dad a farmer?
No, actually, he's originally no. Now he is.
Okay. Because that's a lot of farm ground to have to lease out or manage if you weren't doing it yourself.
Yeah, we're like in that 2x2, like 2 heavy weeks in the spring, 2 heavy weeks in the fall, and then weekends, evenings, as you please to get equipment maintenance done and everything
We
set
know
up.
a lot of farmers that are very similar now here in Northeast Ohio.
So that's about the size of all the properties we own. And
That's very interesting that you bring up that you guys own. These are all properties that you own and they're not leased.
Because I would say that's the number one complaint that people have about outfitters coming into an area. Is they come in and they lease up everybody's permission pieces. So you guys aren't even doing that at all. So that's pretty.
We're
cool.
just buying everyone's permission pieces.
it's not for lack of trying.
Yeah, right.
I'd love to eventually do this full time. I'd never run a ton of clients because that's not fun.
Yeah.
But having the 4 people here and that camaraderie, if I said that right, and building those relationships with those clients from all across the country, as you'll probably look at the map later, that's what I want. It's like a hunting camp.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that hunting camp is our bread and butter. That's our thing. And it is pretty cool that you're running this. It kind of runs a similar parallel to us with the videoing and the podcasting stuff. We do it part-time, half-time, as a hobby and enjoy it. We make a little bit of money off it, but we do it because it's not our bread and butter. If we don't record a podcast or put out a deer video or kill a turkey this year, I haven't killed turkey in 3 seasons now. If I don't kill turkey this year, I'm not going to lose my livelihood, because it's our hobby that we do for fun. We have full-time jobs on the outside, kind of like you guys do now. Like you said, you would love to eventually do it full-time. I feel like that would be tough in Northeast Ohio with the seasons. We get a long deer season, but what are you going to do in the summer? You can fish for bluegills in those ponds.
I don't know. As much as you charge somebody, you might not have to do anything.
That's true. That's true.
Get a walleye boat.
Yeah, walleye. If you did walleye charters in the summer, you would offset yourself real quick.
Got a place to live.
Yeah.
3-day walleye trip. I've thought about it, but I'm not quite sure I'm passionate enough about walleye fishing.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know a couple full-time walleye outfitters that maybe we'll get you guys.
They might yell at you for calling them outfitters.
Nah, or whatever.
No, they're outfitters.
They're charters.
They're definitely
Charters.
charters. But yeah, we'd have to get you in contact, maybe kind of figure something out. It's interesting.
It's I don't know, but dealing with boats is kind of.
I hate walleye fishing and I hate boats. So.
Yeah.
But we have a brother.
Can't even go out on the lake without getting sick.
Yeah, I'll just puke the whole time, just nonstop. But
boats are tough. It's just a lot of work.
But we do have a brother that runs a boat and has a fishing channel and is way involved and loves that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that would be a definite something you could do in the summertime to offset. That would definitely be profitable. But
all right, back to the deer hunting. That's what we're here to
yeah,
talk
we're
about.
here for deer hunting.
We are here for deer hunting.
We are
Screw turkey season.
Yeah,
turkey season we're winding down from. We've been kind of beating that dead horse the past couple of weeks, and it's been a struggle for us.
It's been, like we said pre-camera, it's been a weird turkey season because I've had some incredibly good hunts and then a whole bunch of nothing. and it all depends on where I'm at. I've basically been chasing 2 groups of birds all year, one in southern Ohio, one up here, and if it wasn't those 2 groups of birds, I haven't seen anything. I know you talked about you had a struggle for a while, got a little bit better, and then you ended up getting one.
No,
you haven't got one.
I have not. No.
Have your clients got one?
2 of them did.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We struggled really heavily this year. There's almost birds on every farm, and they just weren't around. We started planting season. Everybody's in the tractors in the fields, and then all of us, like the one day I messaged you, there's turkeys everywhere, and I'm like, oh man, we don't have any clients coming. This is my chance. I'm gonna get out there tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. I seen a big old flock. There was 3 toms in it, and went there, didn't hear a peep.
Isn't that strange?
Drove around to all the fields, man. We were texting each other all day. There's turkeys in this field. There's turkeys in that field, and drove around to every one of them. And it's like they didn't exist. They didn't exist before that day, and they didn't exist after it. They just came out that day, and they were gone.
So that kind of it reminds me. Do you remember last season at the end of the year, Isaac, we were hunting that specific bird that showed up on the north side of our farm, and I was getting trail camera videos of it in the evening. Mm-hmm. So we set up on it the one morning, and that sumbitch was roosted like a mile away. We set up as far on the corner of our property as we could after getting a trail camera video of him, maybe an hour before fly up on in the middle of our farm, and he was gobbling another 500-600 yards down a ridge, way far permission piece that we couldn't be on. That bird covered a lot of ground in that last hour of light. So, those 3 birds you saw, who knows where they ended up that night.
It's hard saying.
And like I said, they were a mile away, and they could have been 4 hunters in between us.
What's your thoughts on why the turkey season and the turkey population per se in certain areas is getting worse? So you hear about how some areas it's getting a lot better, but I'm telling you, Medina County, where we're hunting, the population's worse. It has gone way down.
I don't know. I'm pretty torn on it because the deer hunters, they'll come in here and man, I seen a flock of dozens and dozens and dozens of birds, and they see them on almost every farm, and then you go into turkey season and it's like, where'd they all go? They're not here anymore.
Yeah, and I know they'll flock up food source fall, winter, and move around a lot. Like, we had a flock of probably 30 on our farm, hens and jakes, no gobblers.
Yeah, in the fall and the winter. And then in the spring came along and they were completely gone.
Yeah, a couple hens here and there, maybe a jake coming through from time to time, but nothing gobbling in the morning, no toms. And it used to be, like you said, we used to have 3 or 4 birds in each section of the farm. I mean, there was unlimited birds to chase back in the day, and it was so much fun. That's kind of why I enjoyed to like it and started liking it so much, because we had so much success when we were younger. And now it's tough to find birds.
It's tough.
Tough.
Yeah. It could be a lot of things. Everybody always blames the raccoons, and
I'm a raccoon and possum blamer.
I'm not going to say it's coyotes because I truly believe, compared to some of the states I've been to, we don't really have a coyote problem.
No, there's a lot less. There's a lot of coyotes, but I think it's a lot less than
we have
West Virginia.
Pockets of coyotes, and the coyotes around here, they cover a lot of territory. But like when you go out west, you go out to Pennsylvania and West Virginia, them coyotes are everywhere.
Yeah, we get more.
They'll start howling in the middle of the night, and they'll be howling on every single ridge and holler. Yeah. Ours is just maybe one group of coyotes for a 5
they cover.
Mile
Yeah,
area.
They cover a big ground.
I have a few cameras in PA, and there's not a single day you don't get multiple pictures of foxes. There's foxes everywhere.
So we have a lot of foxes on our farm actually we used to have a lot of foxes. I think the foxes have kind of went down a little bit, but there was a period of time when we did have a lot of foxes on our farm. I'll get more pictures of coyotes in foxes, red foxes and gray foxes and coyotes in West Virginia than I will in Ohio.
And
on average,
how much do these coyotes matter? Because remember when we were in Southern Ohio opening weekend, before light there was coyotes going off on every ridge.
Yeah, and then gobblers going off.
And then the sun came up and there's gobblers going off. So obviously those gobblers.
I wouldn't blame the coyotes for the turkeys either.
No.
But I would blame raccoons. I don't know how many of our podcasts you've listened to when I've rambled about this. But I would blame the raccoons and the possums because of the heavy deer baiting by all the deer hunters and the fact that no one's trapping anymore as nest predators, and they're just raiding nests and getting poults. And
the problem is those coons and possums have all that to eat during the season, and then they quit baiting come January. So what are those coons going to eat all summer long before the row crops come up? Turkey eggs. Turkey eggs and grubs.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped feeding shelled corn.
So I'm
the coons.
We'll get to definitely going to get into that. I got that written down, but
circle back to deer hunting. What are you doing this time of year for all your properties? Because obviously you manage a lot of properties.
Mm-hmm. Right now, it's not a whole lot. There's every property has 1 or 2 mineral sites on it, depending on how large the farm is. Mm-hmm. Or I guess we have so many deer here that I took kind of a stance that there's kind of geographical breakups in farms where there will be different herds of deer. They might intermingle, but I have a lot of examples of why I believe that, and through seeing different mature bucks and their areas historically, believe that you could break farms up into different kind of herds almost essentially. So depending on the size of the farm, there's between 1 or 2 mineral sites, and they get refreshed every 4 to 6 weeks. They get hit really, really hard, which is good. Which is why they're out there.
What do you use for minerals, if you don't mind?
You
don't have to share brand names, but just
I can. I don't care. So I use Trophy Rock, just the big rock.
Yep.
And Lucky Buck.
Okay.
Lucky Buck they love that stuff.
I think we've used
it
right?
last couple of years. We've been using it.
And
not full time, but we've been using it as like a topper.
Yeah.
You know.
I talked to them guys, and
smells good.
They're oh man, I tried it. It tastes like
a lot of that
gas.
shit.
Yeah,
it smells
salt.
great.
It tastes like salt, but it smells good. Yeah.
I talked to them guys. Their original business model, I believe, was on livestock minerals. So they kind of functioned that into the deer, and to some extent, I believe they told me that a lot of those minerals and trace minerals, it's less of a salty candy kind of thing, even though it smells like that. But there's a lot more trace minerals in it too that I guess is extremely beneficial. And so I like that. And the rocks, I don't know why the deer like the rocks so much.
It's just pure salt. Those
they
rocks
love,
are 99.9%.
They
salt,
disappear.
They do love them. They do love them.
So I have a gig with both of those companies, and I've tried other things through different companies, and I'm not going to name any names because I'm going to be honest. The deer won't touch a lot of that stuff with a 10-foot pole for some reason.
Oh, I'd love if you would name names.
I don't want to dog anybody, but
the one we used to always use that didn't work that well was deer cane, I think.
Yeah, we always, because we were cheap poor kids, so Walmart had $10 jug of deer cane, pour it on the ground, dig a hole. You just pour it in the ground and nothing would happen.
It was like a salt block looking thing like this big.
Well, those are like the apple blocks or whatever, wild game innovations.
I've noticed a lot of that, and I'll get a lot of trial stuff, and I'll even go out if a lot of companies give you deals because I work in the industry technically, and I'll buy a few things and I'll try it out, and just
we have no loyalty, so feel free to bash or whatever company you want. It doesn't matter.
I don't have any loyalties either, which is why I'm always trying new things, and for some reason, just the Lucky Buck and the Redmond Trophy Rock, they love it. They won't touch anything else. I mean, I don't care who brands it, what big name TV show guy's on there.
Yeah.
The deer will not touch that mineral stuff for some reason.
What are those blocks that we always have problems with that kind of dissolve? I don't know if they're apple flavored or what that is, but it's almost like a cardboard looking shit.
There's those feed blocks that you can buy. They're supposed to be for turkeys and deer, and they have grain mixed in with them. They just get wet and they turn into a mushy,
I've tried
disgusting
those. They
mess.
don't do well either for me. So
our bread and butter is now the Producer's Pride Trace Mineral.
We just buy
bags.
bulk feed store mineral 50-pound bags and just
put that down
10 at a time and just load up. It seems to work pretty good, but we have topped with the Lucky Buck. It does smell pretty good. I like to use every once in a while a big 50-pound trace mineral block just to keep it there, because those things take a long time to dissolve. But they're just all salt too, even though they're a trace mineral block.
And we're probably running one mineral site per 50 acres, per 100 acres.
Yeah, if there's
give or take.
I've started, we used to do about one per every 50. If we had a 50-acre farm, we'd have one mineral lick. I've started kind of adding a mineral lick close by to food plots. If I have a food plot or an area where deer spend a lot of time, I've kind of added a mineral lick in the summertime because they'll kind of hit it before going out into the food plot just real quick. And it's good for inventory. So we're probably at the 2 for every 50 now, which is maybe a little bit heavy for what the experts would say is what you're supposed to.
Yeah, but that's 2 on our 50, but we're surrounded by 1,000 acres, and that might be the only 2 in that 1,000 acres also.
That's a good stance to take. Yeah, just because you're doing it doesn't mean everybody is.
Yeah, and the properties around us might not be doing anything. So
in the summertime, spring, I don't think they are.
No.
I don't think I don't think our neighbors are doing much for the deer herd.
We've noticed most of the hunters around us are the corn pile, blind, crossbow type.
Yeah.
So they're in the woods during the season, and that's it.
Gun season is when it's wild, and then...
That's another thing you got to do. If you're serious about managing a farm, you have to keep in mind what's around you and what your neighbors may or may not be doing. And most cases, they're not doing anything except for dumping some shelled corn on the ground.
Yeah, they come out the week before gun
all
season. Literally the week before gun season, they come out and
tent.
dump like 4 bags of corn.
Yeah.
They have a ladder stand that they'll check the ratchets on real quick. And then every night during gun season, right at legal last shooting light, I'll hear bang, 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 like 20 shots all around.
Yep.
And it's every night only at last light. It's crazy how that works.
That's a large portion of most hunters.
Yeah.
And hey,
it's not really their fault because
No.
they hunt for 1 week a year. They got a Remington
that's
870
their
with
thing.
open sights, and they know if they go to Meemaw's 20-acre farm, which is next to ours, throw up a bag of corn, that the deer always come up out of the swamp at night, and they
Yep.
shoot 1 or 2 of them, and that's that. They don't find a lot of them because we find their carcasses during shed season, but
don't even get me started on that. I got so many of those stupid slips from the game warden. It's disgusting.
so I actually, and I know Eric is not listening, but if Eric was listening, which is our game warden, I've probably pestered him for about 10 slips over the years, and like I've only probably received half of them, and if they ever try to come raid me, I'm just going to be like, just check my cell phone history.
Yeah.
I tried.
I feel bad pestering them too about it because
But they
it
want
is
us
the
to be.
league.
They want us to be legal,
And
right?
we'll get slips from the sheriffs too, but that's only if they're a possible roadkill type situation.
I forgot to tell you when I last talked to Eric, he like asked/hinted like, well, have you been able to get any tags from anyone else? Like instead of bothering me, but if you can't get a hold of me, have you been able to get a hold? My best friend's a deputy sheriff in Medina, so like I could get a deer tag.
So
every
can we
day.
do that for any dead head, or is it just if it's possible road incident?
I don't know the legalities
that
on
works
that.
either.
And I don't. And here's the problem: we have a pile of slips in the shop in the drawer. I don't know which head they correlate to, but when you're on
it's
social
not like they
media,
give you a metal tag or anything like
right?
that.
And when you're on social media and doing this kind of thing, theoretically, someone could be like, "Check them; they got deer heads." Like,
well, just
yeah,
so we might not have mentioned, but people that are watching or listening, every deadhead you find in the woods, you theoretically have to have a tag for if you're going to take it in your possession.
In Ohio,
most
yes.
people don't. We try our best to do that, to stay
I
legal.
do probably. Don't arrest me. Probably have some in our house from when we were kids that we just.
Oh yeah, we have deadheads from West Virginia. We have
Yeah.
deadheads that were given to us from the '80s. That who knows where they came from. So
But whenever I do find a deadhead now in modern times, I always take a picture of it and send it to the game warden. If I receive a tag, I receive a tag, and if I don't, I try.
I do the same exact thing.
Yeah,
if
you
he
tried.
if he gets to it, he gets to it. But you know what? He's got the information. And at the
Intent
end
was
of the day,
there on my end, you know.
At the end of the day, I guess it's up to him to write the tag, not you. So
well,
if
in the
he
end of the
doesn't
day,
do
it's up to him to bust you. So if you try getting it,
yeah.
Well, if you ever read about this stuff, that is what those are salad toppers for when they're trying to bust you for something. You know, you get caught doing, baiting turkeys, for example.
they could put in the headlines 50 charges.
Yeah,
on
they're
blah,
gonna
blah, blah.
right. They're gonna get you for the baiting turkeys and the illegal gun you had when or the gun you had that was unregistered while you're hunting. And we happen to notice they have 7 deadheads on their barn that don't have tags, so we're adding that to it.
Or it matters if you shoot the number 3 record book deer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We can talk about CJ
I
Alexander.
don't know. We can talk about. I messaged him, tried to get him on the podcast. He told me to fuck myself, basically.
It is kind of funny that he does respond. to
Everything. He
everybody.
responds to everything.
Yep.
He's so screwed. There's no
So
way he's getting out of that.
Recently in news, he has been indicted on those charges, right?
Indicted.
21 or
Indicted.
23 of them.
23 charges indicted, which is weird because unfairly people are saying he's guilty, which that doesn't mean he's guilty. It just means the state has presented 23 charges to the court.
And it will be going to court. I'd like to do a podcast. Maybe we can get a couple of people that are been really following the case once it wraps up.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah.
about the whole process. Because
It would be
it's very interesting.
I do believe it would be the number 1 typical whitetail in the state of Ohio all time, any weapons, and the 3rd largest ever killed in United States, any weapon.
If it's
typical.
all legitimate.
It's not bigger. So the Hansen buck and then 2 or 3 other American bucks.
The
would be
Hansen
bigger.
buck. I got a Mitch Rapallo poster around here somewhere.
Do you want to sell it?
You want it?
So one of our like acquaintance buddies that's been on the podcast before, his name's Aaron Olson. He lives by us. He's a YouTuber and runs some stuff. He's from Traverse City, Michigan. I've messaged him a few times like, dude, do you want to get on the podcast and do a Mitch from Paula podcast? And he's like, no, I'm not touching any of that.
I think it's in
I am
there,
staying.
actually.
I'm staying out of that. But I would love to do a Mitch from Paula podcast too.
But yeah, we'll talk about CJ Alexander once all that comes out. He is doing a whole lot to
He's
hurt
burying
himself.
He's burying himself.
Yeah, he's
burying
doing a whole
himself.
lot to hurt himself. So that'd be very interesting.
It's a lot of spotlight. Probably can't help himself.
Yeah, I mean, even so, it's tangent, but whatever. This is our podcast.
Yeah, we can talk about whatever we want.
Since the CJ Alexander stuff's been going on, I've been noticing on my YouTube, when I log into my TV, there's been a lot of interviews with Charles Beatty showing up. Do you know who Charles Beatty is?
The Beatty buck?
No.
Not the Beatty buck.
Charles Beatty was the guy that poached, he spent 30 years poaching deer off the King Ranch in Texas. He would just camp out there and kill 20 bucks. He killed hundreds of deer, but he spent years poaching on the King Ranch in Texas. And then eventually got caught and then went to jail, did whatever, and then wrote a book about it. And now he's a famous outlaw, did my time, famous poacher.
So he's telling all his stories about.
Yeah, and he didn't poach him. He's one of those guys. He pulls I believe, I haven't read his book yet, and I want to, but he pulls the Robin Hood card. The motherfuckers own 20 million acres.
They were charged $15,000.
Yeah, I just went and camped out there,
the...
shot him with my longbow or whatever, legally. Fuck him. God owns the deer, that kind of thing. So It's an interesting thing. But since CJ Alexander's been in the news, that started popping up. So people are kind of.
You don't own the deer.
Right. The state owns the deer.
Yeah,
technically.
I try to own all the deer around here. So when my neighbors text me and say, I don't see anything anymore. Good.
All right, back to...
we run into a lot of that, too.
Yeah. Back to mid-May, mineral sites.
Isaac's trying to keep us focused here.
Yeah, this is his fourth go-around.
I'll keep everybody in line. So mid-May, mineral sites, what's the first thing you're doing after that for deer season? Whether it's July, September, August, what are you doing next?
So I won't... I might do some woodwork, TSI or clear cuts, which people say you should do in the winter, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. I don't really think it matters because at the end of the day, whatever you're doing is going to be better than the way it was before. Yeah. And just because I have the time more in the spring and throughout the summer, that's probably when I'm going to do some of that work.
Mm-hmm. Do you play any spring plots?
No.
So we haven't and don't usually until this year. I'm going to do some more. I'm actually going to plant some spring plots for the first time in probably 5 years this year. Just the way the schedules and timing and what I want to get in the ground, it works out. But yeah, we were very anti-spring plot for a long time.
Mm-hmm. It's not that I'm anti-spring plot. It's, walking around in the summer and later in the spring, I let my plots go actually because I believe I can reclaim them later in the season. Mm-hmm. July, August timeframe.
Yeah.
Mow them, spray the absolute living piss out of them.
Yep.
I
spent all last week spraying the absolute living piss.
And there's a lot of people that think that they want that natural pollination and they want the bedding for the turkeys and the fawns and the stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of people that are behind that idea.
If you can reclaim it, if you have a good clover base, which a lot of our plots do, they're well-established clover plots, there's no reason you can't reclaim it. If you start early enough in the summer, but late enough that, when those fawns and does lose that bedding, that they'll be okay. I think it's just much more beneficial. You'll see, the big habitat project when you came up the driveway, that used to just be all open hardwoods. And from now until September, the deer will just stack in there. Mm-hmm. They just love it. They love it in there. And now during deer season, it's, I tried to plant some native grasses and stuff in there to hopefully get a hold in some later season bedding, but it didn't really work that well.
Yeah.
But you know what? For 7 months out of the year, the deer love it up there. And I think a lot of people that do habitat work probably tune in on what's going to make my deer hunting better.
Yeah.
Right? And forget that there's 7 months of the year where you're not deer hunting.
Yeah.
Where those deer need to be.
Yep.
And so tuning into some of those things I think help with fawn recruitment and just keeping the deer around. They don't have to go anywhere.
Are you, this brings up a good point, are you one of those guys that's afraid of creating a doe factory per se, or are you one of those guys that thinks, or that's along the lines of, we need to have all the deer all the time?
Living here, comfortable.
Yeah, I'd rather have so many resident deer and not worry about the ratio per se as, I've gone back and forth on it myself. We did a lot of, early summer, spring habitat management. We just created these massive, what you would call doe factories, where you're watching 10 does and 20 fawns and like maybe a holdover 1.5-year-old 6-point. And the mature bucks just avoid the area in the summertime.
Yeah, then they're all getting
because
killed.
it's just so overrun. You know, it's like a daycare center.
Yeah. No, doe factories. That's another like one of those cliche terms you hear get thrown around everywhere. Doe factory, doe factory. I don't
Thermal
mind
hub, whip rub.
Yeah. I don't mind having a boatload of does around. However, I will touch on the fact that even though we do outfit primarily based on killing a nice mature trophy buck,
right,
we do a boatload of doe management. Okay. I mean, and we've been doing it for decades, like the better part of a decade now, 12, 15 years even. We just kill as many does as we can, and we've actually stopped on some of the farms because I believe that
because
we
you've
are
got those
now,
numbers where you want them.
Yes, there's a few farms up there, for example. I believe we are now in a more stable ratio, you know, not 1-5 anymore, or 1-7, or 1-10, like some of these places you see around.
Yeah. We're probably like 1-7.
The one drone guy flew a drone over one of our farms, and he's seen like 15 bucks before we even seen a doe.
Yeah.
You know, that to me, killing the does is huge. Every farm, in my opinion, is like an NFL roster, right? Yeah. And it only has resources for X amount.
Right.
Period. Unless you do something else, you do another habitat project or do more food, whatever it may be, it only ever has a set amount of resources to healthily hold that deer herd there. And for a lot of people around here, every year for the last 15 years, 20 years, they'll go out, I'll kill a buck, Caleb will kill a buck, Isaac will kill a buck, and then we're done.
Yeah.
You know, we all tagged out this year. The hell you did? You got 5, right. You know.
Yeah,
if you have 6 multiple counties, you have 5 more tags. You could kill at least 2 more deer in that farm. You need to kill those does because for so long, the people that hunted that farm or the neighbors, that's just, I got my buck this year, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then you do that, and every time a deer replaces that body on the roster, there's a 50% chance it's going to be a doe. And after X amount of years, there's a huge chance that you're only going to have a boatload of does.
And that's the big issue we were having with the outfitter that was near us, is that first year they were in business, they shot 20-some bucks, and we didn't hear how many does, but it wasn't that many.
It was less than.
I know the farmer, the owner of the land, the farmer, was complaining to us that they weren't killing any does, they were just killing bucks. So we might see the negative impacts of that in the next couple of years.
You got to kill the does. And I try to preach that to everybody. The one neighbor, he's also our taxidermist. You know, I let the neighbor hunt, you know, the little thicket in my front. Mm-hmm. He wounded a buck. And he's always one of those guys. He's an old-time farmer. Complains about the does. Yeah. There's too many does. I'm like, well, you know, somebody's got to kill the does.
Right.
And then I'm like, did he go out and, you know, shoot any does? He goes, no, but he did go kill another buck on a different farm. I'm like, well, he's the problem.
Yeah, right. So there's that ratio.
The dude just slocked 2 bucks, didn't kill a single doe, and you want to complain about all the does you see. Well, you're not doing yourself any good by just killing X amount of bucks every year and never touching a doe. And what's crazy is how many people claim they're meat hunters, right? We're meat hunters.
Yeah, so they justify that 6-point, but they don't shoot a doe.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on? It's mind-blowing. It's circles.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's my theory on it. For one, especially when COVID came around, we lost all the local butchering shops, by us at least, quit doing deer. It was not profitable for them to butcher deer anymore. And if they were going to do deer, you had to bring it to them deboned, you know, pre-ready, basically almost all the way done, and you get charged an exorbitant amount.
So they would basically
doe, it's $200.
They would basically take your deboned meat, throw it in a grinder, and bag it up for you and charge you $200.
Jesus.
So we didn't have any outfits that would do a full service deer process for
Some
us.
did end up showing up over the last couple of years because there was a need, but once that started happening, people were not going to go out and shoot 5 does that's going to cost them $200 or even $100 a piece to butcher, especially if the butchers were making them do half of it. A lot of people don't want to butcher their own deer. So if you're not able, you know, if you're not one of those groups or guys that's able to get your own deer butchered, shooting an X amount of extra deer is just a big pain in the butt.
Yeah, nowadays we have a lot of those adult onset hunters or adults that are teaching their children, so they're second generation hunters, and they're not teaching them how to butcher the deer. They're just teaching them how to kill the deer. So when we don't have a good processor around, people aren't killing deer because it's a pain in the ass.
And if your wife and her family members or your family or your kids or their friends' kids won't eat the deer meat, what do you need 5 does in your freezer?
Yeah, one of our really good friends
at the Hunters for the Hungry program.
That is true, and we need more. So I know that there are a couple taxidermists. Actually, a guy I work with, his family they filled out all their tags and donated every deer except one to these and I think they went to there's one over out in like Rittman, Akron area that does it.
Yeah, the big one out there. I don't remember the name.
Regardless, yeah, that would be great.
We need more of that in our county, at least.
But deer hunters are absorbently, especially
there's
the
not
ones,
one in our county.
I don't think there's one in our county.
Because Chad's Lorain County, and he had to go to Summit County to find the closest one. But these deer hunters, let's be honest. I don't like to talk bad about them, but it's gun season. You're going out to Meemaw's farm to hunt. You have X amount of deer tags you can use. You want to shoot your big buck because you're hunting for the first time for the year, your only time you're hunting that year, and you want to shoot a decent buck or a big buck. If you would, on Monday night, shoot that doe that walks by, not only do you have to go find it, then gut it, then drag it out, and then either take it to the processor or the donation place, wherever that might be. It might not even be open that night, so you got to take it the next day, but then you're going hunting after work. And since we've lost obviously everyone in this room probably butchers their own deer, I'm assuming.
I do not do a whole lot of butchering my own.
Really?
Yeah.
But regardless, we butcher our own deer. We butchered at least 20 deer every year, sometimes up to 30 in our shop. If you don't have that ability, it's a big hassle to take 5 deer to the
But even us that do it ourselves, it is a process. It takes us half a day to do one deer.
More deer have lived on our farm because I didn't feel like butchering one or dragging one
100%.
or gutting one that night. I'm in the tree. I got to get home to do whatever, my wife this or dinner with this or football game this or something I want to do, fire department meeting, and I'm staring at that doe, perfect broadside video. I'm like,
got 3 tags in your pocket, but you just don't want to.
I know if I shoot that, I'm going to be here for another couple hours, and then I got to come back and butcher it this week. It's going to get warmed. I got to get ice. Like, it becomes a big thing. And we kill a lot of deer. For the average guy, he's not going to do that. No. We're just a lazy society now.
Yeah, well, and I would say for us, so definitely for other people, if there was more people processing deer for a more affordable amount, we would kill more deer.
If I could take a deer somewhere for $75 and just get it, turned into ground and get the back straps out, pack. I would do that a lot more. Even though we have everything in the world to butcher our own deer, if I don't have to spend the 5 hours of dragging, gutting, deboning, skinning, hanging, processing, vacuum sealing, then putting it in the freezer for $75.
So that might be the way to solve doe management right there.
I would do that.
Just make processing easier.
You get all that processing stuff to save money, and then eventually you just spend the money so you don't have to do it.
Yeah, because it takes you 6 hours.
There's a few really good places down south of here in Ashland County.
Yeah.
They're not $75, but they're not $200.
Okay, that's good.
Just basic stuff's $150.
Okay, that's
not terrible.
Especially when you're getting 40, 50, 60
early
pounds
season and late season is the killer. I don't mind when it's October, November, early December. We can turn the heater on. It's not that bad. I don't work during that stretch. Usually.
And we can let the deer hang.
The dream jobs. I don't work much in the fall. You can let the deer hang. That's not as big of a deal. You kill a deer opening day and it's 80 degrees outside. I can't let that doe hang overnight in the shop. So I got to do something with it.
Yeah, you got to quarter it and get it in the fridge.
Or you kill those deer in January like we do late season. It's fucking cold out. The deer freeze solid in the shop, like frozen solid deer. Now we got to thaw this thing out. And so those time periods create a lot of hassle. If I could run a deer somewhere quick and easy, I'd be all about it.
We got a cooler if you ever need one.
We've
been working on it.
We've been working on it. We want to build one. Did you guys build one or just buy one?
He just bought one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to buy or build and just have it there. Mm-hmm. A trailer would actually be ideal.
I'll get a lot of calls early in the season from friends and family.
Right.
Hey, can I? Yeah, you could leave them in there.
Because I don't like putting my deer on water.
Just once you get it out of there, just clean it up.
Yep.
Rinse it with soap and water and squeegee it out and leave it like you found it.
Yeah. It's good to know.
You let it in there for a few days. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's set at 37 degrees.
Okay.
So
I would love to be able to hang my deer for a week every time if I could.
Yeah, we're under the impression that we like hanging our deer. I know a lot of people like field to freezer as quickly as possible. We like aging ours a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once it freezes, you're killing everything. The bacteria dies once you get it to zero. So
I'm typically not in a hurry either. I'll leave a deer in there for 3, 4, 5 days. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I've never gotten sick. Not yet. So.
I was going to ask before we got off on the doe tangent. When you said you reclaim your plots, are these clover plots you're reclaiming? Are you just going in and spraying the grasses, spraying a bunch of 2,4-D, or how are you reclaiming those plots that you let grow up in the spring?
So all of our plots have a clover base. Yeah. I love clover because too many times in the past I've tried planting this mix or that mix, and everything's an annual seed, and you got to replant it every year, and none of them handle, in my opinion, grazing as well as clover does.
No.
And you know how many deer we have around here.
Yeah.
And how many food plots do you have around the farms, on the farm you hunt?
We tried planting 2 acres of beans once.
Mm-hmm.
This is what was left.
Yeah, what a joke that was.
And you elaborated on this before, and we did with the minerals. You have to keep in mind, what do your neighbors do? They're likely doing nothing. Yeah. I'm planting food plots. So every deer that knows that food plot exists is probably going to want to be in there at some point or another. Yep. And in this area, that is a lot of deer.
A lot of browse pressure.
It is a lot of browse pressure, and nothing handles it, in my opinion, as well as clover does. So everything has a nice clover base in it, relatively mature, and that's what I shoot for. So when I reclaim, I'll mow, leave it a few days, spray it.
So when you say spray, you're like the 2,4-D, like the
2,4-DB.
Okay, the grass stuff.
No, 2,4-DB is the broadleaf minus clover.
Okay.
41 glies.
Caleb's an
41
expert
gly
on
will
that.
kill everything.
Yeah. And then cleth is for grass.
Cleth is for grass. So yeah, I'll mix 2,4-DB and cleth. I'll spray it once or twice, kind of depending on what it needs. And then if I want to, I'll go in there with a mix and I'll drill it right into the clover. That works. Most times I don't care. I'll broadcast some more clover in there.
Yeah.
In the winter or whatever. I did that in a few plots. Maybe it's looking splotchy or whatnot. And then that's about it. We have heavy clover plots. Everything's a clover plot.
And then you let it grow up. Do you mow it once, twice a season? Do you let it grow completely?
So if your plot is the right size, you really shouldn't have to mow it at all.
It should be getting browsed.
It should be getting browsed pretty nicely. Yeah. Most of our plots are an acre or less, and I feel that it doesn't really ever need mowed. The clover never really gets above that 4 or 5 inch mark, 6 inch mark.
I'm mowing the weeds off.
I would say our clover never gets high. It's the grasses and the weeds and all the bullshit we don't want.
Chemicals.
Yeah.
So more chemicals.
But I would agree. That's why I'm redoing mine this spring. Actually, it was time for the clover to all get redone. It just it was planted.
There wasn't a lot left.
X amount of years ago, burned out, wheat grassed out. So I just went scorched earth killing. I haven't decided if I want to do a nurse crop with it yet. So I have done that in the past. I've tried buckwheat. Buckwheat's too thick. Buckwheat ends up shading everything out. Certain grasses will be hard to kill if you add them to it. I might do like a little bit of wheat to kind of pop up and nurse it over. It's too early for brassicas. Like a summer brassica mix just makes a mess, so I don't really want to plant that. So I haven't decided whether I'm just going to do the straight clover chicory and just try to keep up with the weeds chemically and mow it and hopefully pray for some rain this summer and get a good root system built.
That's another thing. We planted all fall plots last year, and it did not rain from the middle of August till the middle of September, so all our shit burned off.
And unfortunately, you can't plan for that. So you pray for rain, and if you get burned out because it's too dry, that's just the way it is. But
I will go in there with some of the newer plots. I will do nursing crops.
I just
and winter wheat.
Yeah, I haven't. Winter wheat's nice because I'll mow it; it'll die. Once it gets too tall and the clover roots come in, I can mow the wheat off and it'll die, and the clover will pop up. So I might. Might be what I do is just a little bit of wheat in there, winter wheat. But I want to stay away from ryegrass. I want to stay away from buckwheat.
Yeah, don't ever plant ryegrass.
I've done the buckwheat, man, and that it comes in so thick. It's nice if you're one of those guys that wants to broadcast your brassicas into it and then crimp it. I guess it would work well for that, but it grew to be about this tall in the summer and just so thick, and it's not a food. So the deer up here have unlimited food, and there's no value in buckwheat for them as opposed to everything else that's available: soybeans, clover, acorns.
And you mentioned that you will drill in some clover into those existing plots. What do you use for that? Like what equipment-wise?
It's an 84-inch no-till woods drill.
Okay.
So
that
goes on.
I would like to see that.
That's one of the things that we want.
Yeah, that's on the list of things that Caleb wants.
I believe you can actually maybe a co-op
around
you might have one for rent, and it's not entirely expensive. It's
so you pull that behind a UTV,
$125. Well, it's way too big for a UTV.
Oh, it's a tractor.
It's like the size of this table.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a little 130 horse tractor.
Little. Yeah.
Little 130 horse.
We have a little 30 horse.
Yeah, we have a 30 horse tractor, which would pull. I bet you a 30 horse would pull it.
It's pretty heavy. I don't know.
Yeah. We do all our.
Do they make like a 40-inch version?
They do.
Okay, so that would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Say we do all our food plotting with that 32 horse tractor, and then side by side and 4-wheeler type stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have any.
Yeah, that's a 130. That's a little one.
Shoot.
We got some big tractors.
Yeah. So you're like, you got farm status tractors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big
Yep.
big,
ours are cutting firewood.
yeah, ours are right. Firewood, like single row tractors. 2-row plows a little rough on that thing.
Yeah.
But
And then aside from reclaiming the food plots, any stand work gets done periodically throughout the summer.
yeah.
Any big enclosed blinds, we have, there's some redneck brochures over there, and we have a bunch of them around. Those will get put up in the middle of the summer just because it's easy. You're making a lot of noise. You got impacts and sledgehammers.
You don't leave your rednecks out all year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can't pull those in.
I was going to say, like,
Those
so
are the big
you're putting
promos.
your new ones out in the summertime is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna ask about that. Your clients, are most of them, do they mostly like hunting out of those redneck type or permanent sets, or do some people come and hang their own?
Yeah, so no, everything is very controlled.
Okay.
Nobody is. So if you look and study the maps up there, you'll see there's little dots everywhere. Those little dots are stands. Okay. Everything's pre-placed. There's no hanging your own. There are situations, where I'll have a hunter on a farm and maybe he hunts the same stand a day or two and he's like, man, I'm seeing a lot of deer over
I'd like
there.
to get on that side.
Yeah. And I'll be like, all right, well, I understand the farm enough to understand what he's talking about, and maybe we'll go in there real quick and hang a set.
Okay.
Because that's what he's seeing the deer doing, and that's fine. But most of the honey spots are pretty well planned out throughout the summer.
Covered. I didn't know if you're having any pushback from all these crazy mobile hunters that are out there that they're going to want to
Some of them bring
they're going to want to come onto your land and hang their saddles and all that bullshit.
No, nobody's allowed to walk, breathe, piss, or shit unless I tell them to. There's no wandering around. There's no tracking your own deer. There's none of that. You're not going onto the neighbors by accident. Everything is very, very controlled.
So you're not going on these properties, hanging your own stands, getting mad that you're not seeing anything, and then you just pay for a high fence hunt and go kill those deer.
We had some people do
We had a buddy that it's just long story.
It's a long story. It seems like there's been a big push for do-it-yourself outfitters nowadays, especially in like the Kentucky, Indiana area. Like they'll be like, "Oh, we have 1,500 acres. You can come hunt it the way you want." And then most of the times it doesn't work.
I'll tell you why, because you could book it every week of the season.
Yeah. And there's going to be a guy in there every week of the season.
It's
like, fresh farm for me. No, assholes left yesterday.
Yeah,
they literally left yesterday.
I could do this full time now, but again, I just be.
You don't want to be.
I want to give everybody one of the best deer hunting experiences that they can have, because I started the business. It's my baby, and I believe that I want it to be the best that it possibly can be. And doing more than 20 hunters with what I have, it's just not. Them guys are going to be suffering. Week 3 hunters are going to come in. The week 4 hunters are going to come in. Them stands have been hunted every day for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe rotated around or whatnot. But and it's just not going to be. It's not going to be the same. There's a big gap in weeks. We run 5 weeks. There's gaps in between weeks, and everything's incredibly controlled. I'm an absolute freak about access.
So you tell them exactly which way to go in?
A lot of them I'll drop off.
Okay.
Yeah, a buggy's your best friend for deer pressure. Especially if you run them around enough, being on the farm and stuff, and the feeding programs, and they know the buggy. They don't care about the buggy.
Do you listen to Hunter podcast?
I don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts.
So me neither, ironically. But Hunter podcast this week, I had it on because I was watching the baby and I had to bottle feed her and she was screaming, so I just turned on Hunter podcast in the background, and they actually talked about paint layering your property terminology wise, and like blue would be the main highways, like a road, like State Route 58 would be blue, and then purple would be where your ATV drives once every 2 or 3 times a week is considered a purple route. And they were talking about how the deer, like you said, on feeding programs and doing this, doing that, checking fields, whatever, they will accept purple routes. They will accept a four-wheeler driving down this field edge every day of the week, and it doesn't bother or change their plans whatsoever. Then they paint other areas red, which would be never enter zones, or maybe just one shed hunt a year. Thickets, sanctuaries, corners, stuff like that would be red zones. And it's interesting you say that, because we have noticed that side by sides. I'll go walking through the woods or using my four-wheeler I did it yesterday to move cameras around and put them on mineral licks in an hour.
As long as they're on the acceptable route and the acceptable time, the deer don't seem to.
I mean, you go dump minerals in the springtime at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and at 5 p.m. I got a mature buck at the mineral lake.
Yep.
So you're telling me that deer at 5 p.m. in May wasn't within earsight or
he was watching
sight
you do
of
it.
where I was? Like, he saw what I was
But if you're
doing.
sneaking off to your tree stand in November and he sees you, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yep, and that's what you try to minimize. Everything's set to minimize, both visual and wind.
The wind access.
The wind could be right for the stand you're hunting, but it might not be right for your way into that stand, and that's also
a tough one for a lot of farms. Because parking lot is here.
Exactly.
And, to get to stands, there's only one way to get to the stands. And
the farm we're on now, I was fortunate enough to gain another point of access from the southern neighbor, but there's one ridge down the middle that's a trail, and you couldn't really get anywhere on either side of the borders, because either you'd have to walk way too far from the neighbors, or that neighbor maybe doesn't like you,
right?
And there's really no way to access 95% of the farm. You could get down the middle ridge, the trail, and you can get in from the south side, and then
that's an issue we have. Our farm is the same way. It's laid out with logging roads down the middle of both north and south farms. So to access, you pretty much have to go on those, and if you have the wrong wind, you're pushing your scent right where you don't want it to be.
Exactly.
We've actually noticed over the last couple of years just repeated usage of farms and looking at data. Like, we ended up getting some really good crazy hunts when we would get these weird east winds. When the winds around here never blow out of the east, but sometimes they do. And when the wind would shift out of the east, it was random how all of a sudden we started having good encounters or killing good bucks. And it's like, it makes sense, because if the wind's blowing out of the west, south, or northwest 90% of the year, and all of a sudden an east wind comes, you can take those same access routes that you've been using, that the deer are used to winding you on. They can't smell you coming now because the wind is opposite.
Yeah, and they might be moving a little bit differently because of that wind.
Right.
Everybody. It's the old adage: the deer can't always walk into the wind, because
Lake Erie.
it would end up in Canada or Florida.
I always say that,
they have to walk away from the wind sometimes.
Right. The people. Yeah. Well, the wind's out of the north, so that deer won't be able to do this, won't be able to do that. I'm like, if they keep walking that way, they'll end up literally just swimming across Lake Erie.
If the wind's always in their nose, they'll end up in the lake.
Yeah. So that basically covers.
No, you're good.
That covers up until summertime, basically.
One last thing on that while we were talking about plots. How big are your plots?
He said an acre.
Yeah, everything's an acre.
Everything's an acre.
Most of them are right in like that 3/4 to 1 acre size.
Okay. And are you doing one food plot per 50 acres? Or are you doing one, or does it depend on the farm?
It depends on, honestly, what you can do. I try to do at least one new food plot a year, so make sure almost every farm has a food plot now.
Okay.
I was fortunate last year. I picked up 2, and they were kind of gimme ones. The one farm has a pipeline that runs through it, and they came in and nuked the whole pipeline, like 30 yards wide by 110 yards long. And I called them, and I said, hey, don't ever touch that again. I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And now it's a food plot, right? So I got lucky there.
Yeah, and we can look at your maps up here so you can see where your food plots are, obviously, compared to your row crops. Does what's planted in your row crops determine what's your food plot's going to be, how big it's going to be, where it's at, or is that kind of just by chance?
So some of those are old. I drew on them, and I used to be able to erase them with Windex, and now they're kind of permanent. Some of them are actually food plots, so it'd be hard to point out from here. Like that black dot up there on the top right. That's actually a food plot. That green one in the middle there is actually a food plot. Some of the ones that are in the field are just places that we typically leave ag standing as a food source.
We're doing some of that this year for the first time.
Yeah,
People think that's crazy.
I guess we didn't talk about that. Do you do that on some of your farms?
Oh,
you
yeah.
leave the ag standing?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, standing beans in January.
If they can make it to January.
If they make it without getting eaten.
That's my problem. We'll leave, 2-3 acres of beans, and by like the first week of December, there's not a single pod left on any of them. And that doesn't really do you any good for late season hunting.
No.
It's basically empty. The cover crops have helped a bit. We do a little bit more of a no-till farming practice. And we'll put cover crops in all of our bean fields. When do I do that? I can't even think. After harvest.
Yeah, so that'd be
right
like
after harvest.
September, October, maybe November, depending on how dry it is.
And if you could get it in there early enough, it's one big food plot.
Yeah,
one enormous food plot.
Our fields this year, so our south fields this year, they're
supposedly
beans,
they should be. Yeah,
they're beans now. They're planted and they're coming up. But then as soon as the beans are off, they're going to plant winter wheat, and then they're going to turn that into alfalfa the following year, and then it'll be alfalfa for a long time. And then our other half of the farm all got corn. There's a lot of corn planted in our area, which I was surprised about. I know we talked about that.
Because we have a friend that's a big farmer, and he was telling us corn seed, blah, 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 it's too expensive. And then all of a sudden,
everything's corn. Like
so something happened to where these farmers are planting corn.
There's hundreds of acres of corn surrounding our farm.
And they're repeats. They're corn 2-3 years in a row, too.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
Is it getting silaged?
They don't ever cut silage. Those fields
not
never
from ours.
No, never.
That's interesting. That's why you get into rotational stuff, because when you plant corn too long,
and then
not only is that an issue, you have deficiencies in minerals and stuff like that, but you also start to gain cultures of bacteria and fungus and molds in repeat cornfields that can actually hurt your harvest.
Now we're definitely seeing some repeat.
I don't know if he's having that, but he's got a degree in agriculture.
Yeah.
He works for Ag Pro, so
Does he turn it over?
Yeah, it was turned
with a disc.
Yeah,
that's how you mitigate that when you plant corn to corn to corn. You have to turn the dirt over pretty heavy.
Yeah, the one farmer that farms our north side, they always turn it over. I don't even think they no-till beans. I think they turn it over before they do beans.
Yeah, they haven't done a no-till in a while on our north side. So we have two different farmers because the size of the equipment on the south side can't be. Our farmer that uses the north side can't get his equipment on our south side farm, so a smaller farmer.
Yeah, and we only have 12 acres of tillable on our south side farm, so that's kind of like a hobby farmer does that, basically.
Sounds like a 12
It's a secondary farm.
12-acre food plot.
Yeah, it is. I mean, once it's alfalfa, it's going to be alfalfa. It will be.
You do a 3-acre food plot, plant the rest in something else.
Yeah, we've done some different things over the year. Last year, our farmer, it was actually a different farmer last year, and he accidentally sprayed the wrong spray in August on the beans, and scorched earth killed.
This was a big conspiracy in our area. I don't know if it was.
It happened multiple times in Medina County with different farmers.
A lot of small farmers. The co-ops that sprayed their fields sprayed it with the wrong chemicals and killed hundreds and hundreds and thousands of acres of beans, basically.
Yeah. It's ironic you say that. We didn't have any scorched earth kills, but we have had some issues with spraying in the past few years.
It burns it right away?
No, it's either not getting done properly or I'm not even sure.
These were late season sprays probably in August, something like that.
Well, so the north side farmer, I know we're getting kind of confusing for the audience and for Nico here, but the north side farmer, which is the bigger farmer we were talking about, the co-ops didn't spray. Like they obviously contracted to have their fields sprayed. Some of them didn't get sprayed, and it caused a big problem because the mare's tail and stuff came up crazy in those bean fields.
Then the smaller farmers that were using other sprayers,
they couldn't get the big co-ops because they were so busy. So they went to secondary whatever, and that's what killed a lot of the beans in our area.
Yeah, ideally, it'd just be better if you did it yourself, but that's not an option.
Right, yeah.
For a lot of these farmers. Yeah.
The big prowlers are $500,000 piece of equipment, and you could buy a used one, but I mean, you're taking a chance that
someone
anything
else's junk at that point.
Yeah, so our south farm last year was 13 acres of dead beans.
Literally dirt. I ended up planting about 2 to 3 acres of deadly dozen.
Just to try to get something.
Yeah, I decided I was going to go with a big name brand seed and put something in the ground because we needed it.
And there was a whole bunch.
I wasn't sold on it.
There was a whole bunch of issues with we couldn't just go till up the farmer's field because
they
needed to get insurance for it
and this and that.
So literally, we were handcuffed into just dead fields.
It sucked.
And that farm that year was a dead zone.
Well, yeah,
a little bit.
There was still 2. Really
we weren't shooting any feeding deer.
No,
the only deer we were.
But there was 2 mature bucks that we were hunting heavily, but they weren't using the fields much. They were
just rutting.
Yeah. It was November, so we can't say that our farm brought them over by any stretch of the imagination. But things are different this year. The fields are going to be a lot better. Thank God.
Mm-hmm. Phone's blowing off.
Yeah, mine was too. I was getting messages from the wife about walking the baby and stuff.
So when we move to the season, what are you doing habitat when it comes just preseason or onto the season?
Like September-ish time frames.
Yeah,
I know obviously you're getting ready for hunters.
Yeah, there's
Do you run an opening week? Do you have guys here opening week?
No.
Early
Our
season?
first week's the end of October.
Okay, really?
Yep.
You ever thought about doing an early season? Because with all these food plots and all these road
You
crops
could.
and stuff.
We very well could. But
Offer
again,
some doe specials or something. Half price, just to kill a bunch of does.
so the doe hunting is actually done mostly by friends and family.
Yeah.
And they actually wait all season to hunt our farms late season because you're in, big redneck line. Most of them have heaters.
Yeah.
You're sitting over a food source. It's basically
Pick and play.
It's basically a gimme.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why freeze my tail off? Hunt hard. They hunt mostly unmanaged farms. I might kill a doe. I might not. Who knows?
Right.
I'll just go to Nico's at the end of the year.
Okay.
And they lay the smack down on a boatload of does. There's
and it helps
year,
you, helps them.
Oh yeah, last year there
Do you
was
put
like 8
restrictions on
guys.
what they're allowed to shoot, like buck-wise?
No bucks.
Okay. So
Nope, doe
even
only.
though they might have a 160 feet out
No
in front
bucks.
of them, like
No
damn.
bucks. I almost did make an exception last year. The guy was pretty ill, but he didn't even. I told him, and kind of left it up to their discretion.
Right.
But he didn't even get the chance. There's the first doe that
Yeah.
walked out got slocked, and that was his hunt. He wasn't waiting.
Yeah.
So they do me a huge favor, and they love it, and it's a nice event. I think we had 8 or 9 guys last year. We'll do dinner in the lodge, then we'll go out and get everybody's does, and take care of them, whether they take them home or leave them in the cooler, take them to a processor, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fun. Usually there's a football game on because we do it on a Saturday or Sunday.
Playoff season. Yeah.
I think last year it was a playoff game we were watching probably.
Yeah, because you're doing this during muzzleloader, I'm assuming.
No, we book a muzzleloader hunt. This is
Okay.
archery late season.
Okay, late archery.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
like the second to last weekend, third to last
January,
weekend.
almost February.
We kill a
time.
lot of deer that time of year.
Yep.
We killed a couple last year that time of year. It's
Pretty
common for us to shoot deer that stretch.
And it's a lot of fun. It's like another deer camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Do you film any of your stuff?
no.
No filming.
I
at all?
wish. I tried. I sent you the turkey hunting video.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, you did.
I was gonna ask that at the end if
Yeah,
you had any
it's-
interest in doing that. You just haven't.
The editing's, man, I edited it on my laptop, and it was like a top-of-the-line laptop back then.
Mm-hmm.
But now with what I know about computer technology, it's not built to edit videos.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That seems to be the big barrier to entry right now when it comes
Yeah,
to
you
videotaping
need
and YouTube is getting that stuff presentable that people want to watch on YouTube.
You need a big dollar laptop or a big dollar computer station, and
and then the time to do
that's
it.
probably what turned me away. I spent 6 to 8 hours editing it, and 3 or 4 of them were battling with staggering this or buggy or
Yeah.
just waiting for it to load and trying to put all the clips in there, and it just
I will say, if you have a good setup, once you learn how to do it, you can do it.
It becomes
It
easy.
just like anything else in life. Once if you have a good, smooth, fast working setup, and you learn how to edit the videos and like your workflow gets set up. Like I have mine set up so all my music is right here, all my prior footage is here. I'm editing off external hard drives that are plugged, that are hardwired in, and it's just. It's fast. It's a fast system for me. I can put a video together now in a couple hours, no problem.
Yeah,
But
and
it
I
took a
think-
long time for me to get there.
that's what shied me away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was using an old school laptop. No matter how good it was when I bought it, it just wasn't.
You
got
got to spend twice as much on your setup as you do your camera.
Oh, yeah.
People are going to go out and spend. They're going to drop $3,000 and buy a Sony and a lens, and they think
That's
this
what I
is
did.
going to right. This is an amazing piece of cinema right here.
It's
You
one
need
piece of a big puzzle.
$6,000 worth of editing equipment
Oh, yeah.
to make to take what that camera is doing and to present it properly.
not pull your hair off while you're
Oh,
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That was the thing. It was a blast editing it and putting it all together, and I even did subtitles. I edited those in. And that was all super fun, but the hair pulling, like 3 hours out of that 8-hour edit of just waiting for the thing to work, because
I don't
it
deal with
didn't
lagging
have,
anymore. I just bought a system, so I don't-
exactly. You probably have a graphics card and all that fancy
yeah,
stuff.
I don't deal with any lagging. That's
Because when we're
just
doing 100
pisses me
videos
off.
a year almost, or whatever we're
yeah.
doing.
Yeah, we're 80 to 100 a year.
That's incredible.
You gotta rock
I did
'em out.
one. I would probably film some more stuff if I didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I have looked into buying a computer to handle that, a laptop with a GPU in it, kind of built for editing. Now it's $3,000 to $4,000.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if I want to buy that or a drone. 'Cause the drones are pretty cool.
The thermal
drones
drone is what you're looking at.
They're so cool.
They are so cool.
They are so cool. I know you. Did you listen to the podcast with Chris? About
Yeah, I
drones?
did. I like Chris a lot. He was in this room actually
Really?
a few times. Yeah.
There is a lot of stuff that there's a lot of we've opened a lot of can of worms with the drone thing, in my opinion. I think they're going to change the landscape in the next 10 years majorly when it comes to hunting. Because there'll be no more secrets, for one.
Well, they're going to either change the landscape or the laws are going to change to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and that's a gray area because do we want more government control or not?
Yeah.
But, I mean, if a guy like you, if you're running an operation like this, it wouldn't be illegal in Ohio right now if you just take your thermal drone up and check all your farms before you send your hunters out. Like, oh, that buck's bedding on that ridge right over there. You need to get in on this stand. That's not illegal. And I think once
it should be.
Right. I think once the cost,
Yeah.
the like we've talked about with the deer drone guy, Yoder, we've talked to him a couple times. Once the cost, the barrier of entry
and it's
is
almost
less,
there,
then people are going to utilize that technology a lot more. Guys like Yoder, they're lumping it in with cell cams. Well, it's no different than a cell cam. It's no different than a cell cam.
Different than a cell cam.
I think it's a hell of a lot different.
You're lucky if your cell cam's getting pictures.
This is a podcast I want to plan, and we want to find the right guest for it. It's basically going to be called Drones, like opening a can of worms. Because this can of worms is getting opened, and then the barrier of entry is almost low enough to where the regular Joe Schmo can check his property before he hunts to see if his buck's there.
I mean, they're almost at the price of what a decked out like Hoyt bow is now. So they're getting down to the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 range.
Yeah,
especially used. And now a new Hoyt bow is $2,000, $3,000. So we're at the point where you could get a new drone every couple of years to check your hunting properties. And there needs to be some kind of laws put in place.
There'll probably be a time frame.
Yeah,
I would
like in Alaska, you can't fly the same day you hunt type deal.
I would agree with that, and or make it so you have to be licensed, and once a search is done by a licensed guy, like a consumer wouldn't be able to fly drones to find deer. You'd have to be licensed to do it, just like you had to have a certification to cut hair or be an EMT or drive a CDL.
You could buy a drone from a toddler.
Right.
That's kind of the problem with that.
Right.
Because an Amazon drone for $50 can fly around.
Well, I'm talking about the thermal capabilities to find your deer, and then once if you use one of those services, it's marked. Like there's an official log kept, like A, B, and C drone service was on the Nico farm on this date, which would require you not to be able to check in a buck within 24 hours of that day. Obviously, anyone can fudge that any way they want.
Yeah, and we would hope
there would be some type of legal recourse of, hey, you can't go hunting these deer now because you know exactly where they're at.
We would hope, I know this is kind of broad, but we would hope the ODNR and our government officials would be talking about this and would be coming up with plans, but we know that may not be the case just with workload and what they're actually worried about.
Yeah.
So we can hope that there's laws that are in the works and regulations that are in the works, but right now there's not, and it's tough.
It's definitely tricky.
And I could just park on the side of the road on one of your farms, just fly my drone up and check out what you're doing, and you would have no privacy. You would have I would know exactly where all your deer are. I could hunt the property edge right next to you. Like it can get real shitty real fast.
As long as you can't prove harassment,
right?
You can't tell me I can't fly a drone over your property.
4 or 5 years ago, I had a drone fly through my food plot while I was hunting. Like before, it wasn't a thermal drone; it was like a DJI Mini. But I was hunting, and none of my buddies.
It was on Thanksgiving, I remember.
Yeah, somewhere around, and I think it was probably some families got together and someone brought a drone, just flying a drone. But I was sitting in my hunting blind and on a food plot, and a fucking drone just flew through. Like, what the hell? Like,
20 feet off.
Yeah, like what the fuck's going on here? Like,
that's
but
funny.
like that got the wheels spinning for me way back then. They're like, wait a minute, like so people can just come check out what I'm doing while I'm in the stand.
And I don't know
they
why
can see my truck parked.
I don't know why this isn't a bigger deal, and maybe because people are taking advantage of it and they don't want it. They don't want rules and regulations to be made. But I figure people will be talking about this all the time because of the advantage.
I just don't think people know about it enough on a grand scale yet because it hasn't happened to them. But let's just say we have a hunter local to us that I know is hunting a really good buck. Maybe he's an enemy of mine or someone that I'm not really good friends with. I could find his truck and follow him around in the evening and see where he parks. And
you could find his buck and push.
You could find his
buck.
I
could find his wherever he parks his truck. I could just follow him above with my thermal signature to see where he sets up that night. Okay, he's hunting right here. Then I can go find his buck and literally watch the proceedings, and it's not illegal. That's fucked up to me. Like,
and the urban hunting things and the public land things. Those are two. When you can only hunt this small urban woodlot and there's a 200-inch deer in there. You can go see if he's in there before you hunt it.
I've named some celebrities just as a reference in the past, but I just still don't. You can't convince me that these hunting celebrities that are hunting properties like that already have
the means,
hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars invested in their operation, aren't flying a $10,000 drone legally to find their bucks. I just don't believe that. Why would they not?
Yeah.
You know, they're already running 1,000 cell cameras and putting out fly bait so their deer don't get midges and like deworming their deer in their mineral plots. Like, why would they not be utilizing the drone as well? It's just another tool that's
They probably
legal.
are.
That's
They're
what I'm
just not
saying.
getting
I know
caught.
they are.
Yeah.
All right,
And
drone tangent.
the intro to all their videos is drone footage too. So like, I know they know how to fly.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the.
Don't even get me started on celebrities. I can't
We can end
stand-
with that if you
Yeah,
like.
we'll end with
stand
that. Let's finish up our habitat stuff first, then we can get on to more tangents. So
They're not hunting early here.
Not hunting early.
Not hunting early.
So you're not really doing anything early season when it comes
Are
to.
you personally hunting?
No. I might go kill a doe or something if I have time, but it's not really a huge.
You seem like you're the all for the client type.
I am.
I've seen his pacing a lot of deer up on that wall, though. He's killed a lot of bucks on that wall.
a lot of them are pre-client.
Pre-client.
Yeah.
Okay. So the season starts rolling around. Then what are you doing? You're obviously mowing or not mowing, depending on if you need to.
We're making sure all the food plots are in check, and if they're not, I'm trying to either recover them, whether it be through planting, nursing crops. Oats get mowed down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So you'll do that a couple times throughout the season.
Yeah.
I start feeding a little bit on some of the farms where there may begin to be less food.
So that's getting into the baiting conversation.
Yeah,
here,
this farm's a prime example. It's 136 acres of just nothing but woods. There's a lot of acorns. There's one 1 acre food plot, but overall
you need something.
There's not a ton of food on the farm. I mean, there's some thickets and there's some TSI work I've been doing, which is creating some more of that growth. That's creating some more food, but there's not enough food to hold as many deer as we have in the area to give my hunters the best hunt. So on a farm like this, I'll start baiting a little earlier.
What are you using?
Just cob corn.
Cob corn.
Cob corn. That's it.
So when your clients come and they're hunting in a redneck or a stand, are they expecting bait? Do some want bait? Do some not want bait? I'd imagine most of them just want to see deer.
Are you hiding it behind logs so they can't see it?
No. It's kind of mixed opinions. Most of them don't really care.
I would imagine most of them are coming. They just want to see deer.
Like the first hunt in October, a lot of those guys will hunt without food on some of the more food-dense farms. And they're okay because they come back and they fill out that hunt report. I have every hunter fill one out every morning and every evening. What'd you see? Doe, buck, fawn. What were they doing? Times. If just be as descriptive as you can. And a lot of them enjoy doing it because they sit around here and they talk about what they seen that day. And and it's kind of a cool little tidbit. And as long as they're seeing deer, I don't really think they care. A lot of that October hunt will go without food on the more food-rich farms. And what's it matter? They're still seeing deer. A good amount of them still pull the trigger. So.
Cob corn, huh?
Yeah, I stopped feeding shell corn.
We use
because of our coon buddies.
Yeah, we've used cob corn before. I remember there's been times where I'm like 200-300 yards into the woods away from a cornfield, and I'll watch a fucking squirrel with a whole cob in his mouth, like run by, like damn, dude.
So
that
do you
thing covers some
notice?
ground.
You notice a lot less coon and squirrel? With the cob corn.
I don't mind the squirrels. I mean, I don't like how they eat my sheds, but I was. What was it? 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe 5 years ago, we were dumping corn back here because this is one of the heavier, feeding areas. That
I'm looking at your map. It's all woods.
It's all woods.
Yeah, I would assume we're in that one.
Yeah.
And I got a picture. There's 27 coons. Eating on the corn pile.
That's
I'm like,
normal for us.
I cannot dump corn just to feed stupid raccoons. I mean, everybody's they're killing the turkeys and eating the eggs, and I get it. So what did I do? Right. I just tried cob corn. Like, this was the only farm that got it the following year. And you would see 3 or 4 mingling around, probably trying to pick up whatever kernels they could. But overall, for some reason,
they don't seem to bite it off the cob.
They don't seem to spend a whole lot of time on the cob corn.
Because they'll just go 150 yards over to your neighbors wherever they have their corn. They eat that. It's easier for them.
Well, I'm not the problem anymore. That's all I care about.
I mean, that's very interesting. I like that idea.
And that's something we haven't tried that we probably should.
We've gone completely full circle with the baiting thing. We've gone from baiting a lot to there was a 2 or 3 year stretch where then all of a sudden we threw up the flag and said we are not baiting anymore. Baiting's for fucking pussies, all this stuff. And then we went back to, well, a strategic corn pile here or there works, and then so now we're kind of past.
It's
that
just
point
a circle of hypocrisy for us, pretty much.
It's tough.
That's how we roll.
So some farms we bait, some farms we don't. Some years we do, some years we don't. I mean, I just use it as a tool if I need it. If I feel the pressure's on and I need it, I will do it now. And hate myself for it, but I will do it.
And late season, we're usually doing some baiting just for shed hunting and for inventory purposes.
Like we talked about last year, our fucking beans got killed.
Yeah.
Everything. Scorched earth.
You had a whole place of your farm with no food.
We had an entire farm with no food besides a couple acorns here or there and ground level browse.
And half an acre of clover that we had.
So it was, we had to do some baiting pretty heavy last year on that farm, unfortunately. This year we might not have to with the way things are working out. We might not dump any corn this year. We'll see. Keep that in my back pocket, I guess.
Maybe we'll look for some cob corn.
Yeah.
Finding cob corn might be tough. I don't know. So how do you source it?
We got a picker.
He's a farmer.
Yeah, we pick our own corn. Honestly, it's my favorite piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's old, and it is so cool to watch. And while you're watching it, you're like, man, they say that chops people's arms off. Yeah, this thing is dangerous. It's a dangerous looking piece of equipment.
So you guys, in all these fields, you plant your own corn, and then you harvest it all, and that's what you use?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of picking to get a lot of corn. So I'll pick maybe an acre, and that'll run me so I have some for the following year before I could pick some more. And I want to pick some to sell it because people buy it.
What would you charge me for a 55-gallon drum?
I've thought about it. 55-gallon drum it's not going to run you a whole lot of money. Yeah. And you get a lot of corn.
Yeah, because we do spend some money on bait every year. Corn prices have gone up double in the past, 3 or 4 years,
Buy direct from the farmer. It's always cheaper.
Yeah.
But
do that.
I also like it. I feel like it stays cleaner. Like
I hate
dump shelled corn on the ground and walk by it a few weeks later.
Muddy,
smells
like
smells.
Yeah. No, cob corn. I think it just stays cleaner.
And the deer are eating that too. Think about that. Like the corn's down in that muddy, shitty piss mixture.
Yep.
And the deer are eating it.
And I don't really typically notice that with cob corn. It just.
I don't like feeders. I never liked using actual feeders and stuff.
Yeah.
So when you use
the
cob corn, is it just on the ground or
just dump it? I got a bongo truck.
I've seen it. The mini truck.
Actually, I don't know if
the little Japanese mini
trucks.
It's
at one of the farm. It's got a dump bed on it.
The white one?
No, not that one.
Oh, I saw a mini truck out there when we pulled in.
We got one with a dump bed on it. It's got one of those gravel gates. Talk about lazy. I just fill it up. Go to the field. I press the button.
Have to get out.
And I drive forward, and it leaves a nice yellow brick road.
Yeah. Nice.
But it stays cleaner. It lasts longer, and I don't notice too many coons on it. Now
that's very interesting.
The turkey situation. Turkeys always love the shelled corn when you dumped it, and we're not doing that anymore. So maybe that's kind of been a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't get a whole lot of.
So this was one of the first years I've noticed that those turkeys were starting to clean up some of our bait piles late season, like hardcore cleaning them up. But they weren't here in the spring, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So you start your hunts 3rd week of October.
Yep.
That's obviously heavy pre-rut starting, scraping. Your setups when you're putting. I know there's obviously tons of stand setups on there. Are you putting your hunters more on food sources? Food plot, field edge, somewhere like that. Are they hunting funnels, scrapes, water? We didn't get to really touch on any water. Are you adding? I know you got some ponds I can see here. Are you adding water for your deer? What are your hunters hunting in October?
Yeah, water is one thing I haven't really gotten too much into, and we talked about that briefly.
I've started a little bit on the water thing. I like it.
Every farm's got a creek. Every farm's got a pond. Every farm's got water, and it never crossed my mind that maybe the creek water isn't. And now that you mention it, there's a few farms with those historical ruts that never go away from tractors and whatnot, where water puddles up there, and there's always deer drinking out of them. But there's a creek 200 yards away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the stagnant water. There's some people that have a thing where they think, not stagnant, but non-moving water the deer prefer it, apparently. And if you could put that on a rut travel corridor somewhere where they're hitting scrapes, they say it's a very deadly
it's an interesting take, and something I'm probably going to look into, maybe trying one or two out this. I have an excavator, so
I'm going to try some myself this year, some more. We're building more this year.
But them guys, they're mostly hunting over food plots.
Okay. Keeps them active.
Yeah, and they're not typically too hard to get into. I think that time of the year pressure is a big one. Mm-hmm. The bigger bucks, they're not crazy yet. Man, you could walk through in a clown suit the first or second week in November and 2 pans ding them together, and sometimes I just don't think those bucks will care.
No,
that's not what's on their mind right there.
They're just worried about those does.
So we try to hunt ultra low pressure at the end of October. The easiest places to get access into, whether it be a funnel on the edge of a field or a food plot. We don't start to travel too much into the interiors of the property until November. And if you look at all the stands, there's really not a whole lot of interior stands anywhere on any of the farms. Everything is edge, as minimal intrusion as you could possibly get. The less the better.
Does that change as the season goes on, or is it kind of the same strategy for that 5 weeks?
Yeah,
we'll
get a little more aggressive in November. Like I have a few climbing stands, and if the clients are in that state of mind, and it's something that we can do, I will send them in there with a climber, and it's hasn't worked out yet, but it's only year 3. So
do you have a particular stand anywhere on one of these farms that's just been like multiple large bucks, like mature deer, like one particular stand or 2 particular stands that are just money, or is it all spread out?
Well, that whole farm at the top left is just that's the farm. That is like the best farm.
The one that's shaped like Kansas style hunting, like it's like fingers of woods broke up by a big ag.
That farm is incredible.
It looks like it funnels real well.
I did a herd analysis on that farm. There's 201 deer on it. We cannot kill one of the problems with that farm is I just cannot kill enough does for some reason. To get me to feel comfortable with the ratio. Look at
all those pinches, like those corner edge pinches, and like damn, it's gorgeous.
That is just and we own the majority of the block. The next largest portion of the block we don't own is absolutely no hunting, no walking, no milling around, no friends and family walking through the woods. Wow. I mean, it is a complete sanctuary. That farm is just great. And honestly, the big farm in the middle is right next to one of our beloved parks here where there's also no deer hunting allowed. Mm-hmm. And that farm is also a very good farm. We killed 6 really nice deer off that farm this year.
Damn.
6 of them.
Nice. And that's it looks like it's mostly ag.
Yeah, it is.
And then there's obviously that stretch of timber there where they funnel.
Looks like it's that creek bottom through there, I would assume.
That one pinch looks pretty wild, like the top pinch right below the pond.
And that lot of woods right underneath it is connected.
Damn.
That bottom map there.
Yeah.
And that's another farm I can't kill enough does at. Because at that point, not only are we managing our farm, we have to manage the
whole
state
block.
Park.
Yeah.
The state park that's right across the road.
Yeah.
Where nobody hunts, right? And it's just an endless battle of does. So many of them. We kill pretty much good bucks on every farm. The farm at the top right's good. Back here is great. We killed a really nice buck in the bottom right. Probably the first buck we've taken off that farm in a while. One of the turkey hunters found him. We ended up not being able to find him.
And then the turkey hunter ended up finding him?
Yeah, he was back here. That farm's not too far from here.
Okay.
Let me see. I got a picture.
Is that the one you're telling us about, the drone, 1,100 yards, the whole 9 yards? Yeah, dang, that is a nice buck. Wow. Split twos, real good split twos.
I was with that guy when he shot it, actually. He's an older gentleman. He's coming back for year 3, so he's one of the original clients. And he slept for like 4.5 out of the 5 hours we were in the blind. I mean, he was sawing logs in the blind.
And you're just sitting there like looking around,
just sitting there
checking Instagram.
He woke up like 5 minutes before that deer walked into the field.
Wow.
And he actually missed it with the muzzleloader, the first shot.
Got a second shot.
And somehow, I mean, it took him like 5 minutes to find his primer. He had one primer in his fanny pack. And I loaded his gun for him, and he couldn't find his primer, and the deer's just standing there.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes. It felt like forever. And he somehow managed to get a second shot off of it. And the deer was heavy quartering towards us. And I was just about to tell him, hey, give it a second, wait for him to turn. And he let one fly, and he hit it way far back, which is why we never found it.
Blew his backside out pretty much.
Yeah. And
they'll live for a while.
We thought he ran north towards some of the local parks, which would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Big giant sanctuaries. They're really not that far away. We checked 3,600 acres to the north, slightly west and slightly east, and he was 1,100 yards to the southeast.
Wow.
Yeah,
so he completely looped around.
He did a circle.
His trail went north. We found a lot of bone, a little bit of blood, and once he got to that end of the block, he must have decided not to go way across the road.
So that was one of the ones you used the drone on?
Yep, we tried.
Did the drone go over where he ended up being, or no? You simply just
barely
didn't hit
missed
that
it.
area?
Just barely missed it. The drone was probably 500 yards from where that deer was.
These drones seem pretty foolproof when it comes to. Have you heard of a situation where the drone went over where that dead deer was and didn't find it?
No, I mean,
I
don't know any specific examples. We had the drone. I kind of told you Chris came out, Skyhound, and he searched for a deer that my neighbor shot. And the story is it's hard to explain because my neighbor has been a deer hunter his whole life. He was very adamant to this day. He will go to his grave saying that he shot this particular buck, and all the evidence points to that not being true. But the evidence leading up to that shot points to it being true. He had that deer on trail camera in that spot like multiple days in a row in daylight. Completely believable. He said he shot this buck. It kicked. He saw a leg fly up above his head, which would be like a disconnected type leg wound. Found blood, found bone, and then an hour later manually jumped the buck up. Saw him with his own eyes, running, bleeding down into a thicket. Drone came out. We brought Chris out, searched that night.
We couldn't really collaborate any of that evidence.
Searched that night and the next day everywhere. I mean, thousands and thousands of acres. Couldn't find the buck in question alive or dead. And then, 3 days later, he showed back up on trail camera 100 yards from the guy's house. I had him on trail camera a couple hundred yards from the guy's house. No wounds on him. So we don't know. It's very hard to say, it's like a Bigfoot story. People swear to God that they have seen it, but we didn't have any actual physical video proof of any kind. And when we did get video proof, he's not wounded. So you can say it till you're blue in the face, but so it's hard to say.
Yeah, we haven't seen a situation where the drone has failed to find a
dead deer yet.
Basically.
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, I know it'll happen, and I know it has happened. But like you said, if you can search 3,600 acres, that's a buck's
in
range.
3 hours.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty foolproof.
Especially that time of year, December. The only canopy you have is conifers and some oak trees are still holding. You're going to see the ground.
Yep.
We were finding raccoons and squirrels and mice.
You can find
it blew my
mind.
Mice.
It blew my mind. That's a raccoon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a squirrel. That's a squirrel. You see the little altitude thing. He's 350 feet in the air. You're like, that's a squirrel? Are you crazy? Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
It's nuts. But they're tough animals, and
yeah, we know
it's
that
crazy.
They can survive crazy things.
Our first year, one of the gun hunters killed a buck. Super wide deer. He's a really great deer. A 9-point. And I don't cape any of the faces out. I won't touch it, especially if the guy wants it mounted.
Yeah.
So we'll take it to a local taxidermist here.
Right.
He's actually a neighbor, and he'll do it for like $30. And most of the guys are cool with that.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. And he skinned this deer's face. And, let me back up here. When we were taking the hide off the deer and cut the back, right below the head there, there's an arrow point sticking out. Went right between the eyes.
Oh, wow.
And was chilling right behind the back of the head there. Must
somehow
have not
blew
hit
through.
the spine. And it was just stuck in there. There was like 10 inches of arrow. And the gun hunter killed this deer. And then we proceeded to pull a 1-ounce slug out of his hide.
Yeah.
Right around the shoulder area. So I got some.
Yeah, because we have a lot of taxidermists tell us that they'll pull 22 bullets out of a lot of these deer's necks and stuff and heads. And
when I think I told you, Nico, in our messaging, when we were in Indiana this year, we were eating backstraps from my brother's buck that he shot this year. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the top of the neck, right below the back of the head.
But we were eating a backstrap out of a buck that Luke had killed 2 days before, his 147-inch 8-point bow buck. And as we were eating the backstrap in Indiana, I bit into a 22 round.
yeah, we found a 22 round in it.
I believe it.
in
It
his
happens.
backstrap. So someone is out there taking pot shots at this buck with a 22. Yeah. So where did let me see.
That's right.
So
right down
through
the center of the
right through
nose.
his nasal cavity.
Yeah, into the back of the neck. And the deer lived with it.
Yep.
For
Through his
who knows how
sinuses.
long.
So do you think it went below the brain?
Yeah. So on a
must
deer,
have-
it's
Through his like throat type area.
and a deer, it's
kinda?
through his sinuses, and then out, and the brain sits
Yeah.
all above that.
And he just lived with it. And
Can't imagine he was very comfortable.
This is what it looked like before you.
So it's
skin the
basically
face
healed
out.
over.
Yeah, I mean, deer,
Isn't that
deer,
something?
deer are insane.
Oh yeah.
And that's how much arrow was in there.
That's wild.
So, like,
did
8-9
did
inches
he
arrow.
utilize that for his mount? Like,
Yeah,
did
he did.
Keep it? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's got crazy deer stories, but we've had so many deer live by us, missing legs and have entire legs just, hit by a car, blown off by a shotgun, and they run around on 3 legs and it heals, and they live for years.
Yeah.
Imagine if your arm just got blown off right now with no medical care.
We wouldn't survive.
No, we'd be dead. These deer live, man. They survive. It's crazy.
We'd be dead.
Yeah, we'd be
Yeah.
dead.
Wow. So curiosity's sake, how many acres total do you have?
It's about like 1,500-ish acres.
Okay. And my last question: what's the biggest deer a client's killed for you in the past 3 years?
A
Inches
quiet 167.
By your family hunting on this property.
It was like 178.
Okay.
Damn. That is.
So
that is
we've
something.
had some mega giants throughout the years. We just haven't. That triple drop time buck
Yeah.
I sent you a
Yeah.
picture of. Man, we hunted him really hard, and we just haven't been able to connect. There's at least 2 or 3 mega giants every year.
Running around.
Last year there was a one. Heck, he broke off 2 points and he went 186. The neighbor killed him. Wow. I mean, every year there's a few mega giants, so I think it's just about due time one of these days.
So it's weird. Like I've noticed, with these really big deer, these really old deer that like we like to target, I can tell based on what my trail cameras show me in my personal hunting whether that deer is going to make it or not. So what I mean by that is like that buck that we just talked about. That Chris came out to look for his drone. A buddy of ours ended up killing it a mile away. That deer was so active on my trail cameras and while I was hunting that I knew someone was going to kill that deer. Like there was zero chance that deer was not going to get himself killed because he was just being stupid. But we have other deer that will get 3 or 4 trail camera pictures a year maybe, and like we'll hear some word of mouth stuff, and it's a big this with a drop tine or something, and we like know about them, but they're not active enough. Those are deer that I'll bank on living. I know, we know that this deer's going to live because no one can ever get a good read on it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other deer that like there's
Oh, yeah,
no
he's
chance.
dying.
Like last year, there was no way Bird's Nest was getting through the season last year without somebody in the line of hunters that we knew about killing him.
Taking a shot.
But like,
multiple people ended up having opportunities at him before he was killed.
but then on the same token, in the same stretch of area, the 10 point that we're kind of targeting this year,
no one
some
saw
of the
him.
neighbors didn't even know he existed. We did because of this and that and the other.
No one ever saw him
No
from
one ever
stand.
saw him from stand. Like I had a pretty good feeling that deer was going to live because it's just the way he operated.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't running around in daylight a lot, hitting feeders, hitting scrapes, running through people's backyards like the other buck was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because I think the other buck was a lot older than him, maybe at least a year, maybe 2 years older. I do think some of these
just
bucks,
personality traits on these deer.
yeah, and also I think some of these bucks, when they hit their mega absolute 5, 6, 7-year-old prime, they've kind of just decided I'm gonna fuck until I die. So they just run does ragged and get killed. Some of these 3 and 4-year-olds,
They're a little bit
they
more
will
skittish.
obviously do a lot of breeding, but they're still a little bit scared of dying.
Well, not to mention,
plus they get
it's-
their ass kicked by an older
they have
buck.
to keep a lower profile
Right,
in
so-
the herd as well.
Yeah, so they're not putting themselves out there as much. They might actually go bed down in November and spend a day just laying in a thicket, not moving. Whereas that 5 or 6-year-old rutted up, he only weighs 140 pounds now, even though he's a big old mature buck.
Yeah, see,
he just won't stop. He just keeps going.
He obviously has to fear the humans and predators, but he has nothing else to fear when
and
it
he's
comes to the
accepted,
herd.
and he's also probably accepted that he will die. Because these deer, I do believe they know they're not going to live forever. Animals wander off into water and die all the time. You hit a certain point where I've been breeding for 4 or 5 years. I'm the biggest, widest buck in the area. I'm mature. No one's been able to beat me in a fight all fall. Like, fuck it. Like I'm going until it's over. And those deer seem to always end up getting killed or hit by a car.
Yeah.
That happens a lot too. But those nice 3, 4-year-olds that are 130, 140, 150 inches maybe, those are deer that have a chance of making it another year and becoming a true target because they're lower on the pecking order. They're still a little bit scared. They haven't figured it all out yet. They're still kind of learning just a little random observation I've had about the older bucks, but I don't know if you agree or not.
It's tricky. As somebody that likes doing a lot of work on their farm, I don't find that I tend to even really pay attention to that. I think if I don't shoot the deer or my clients don't shoot the deer, there's a great chance that the deer is going to live regardless of how active he is. That one farm, the neighbor's the taxidermist, and I'll bring my client's deer over there to get the face caped out. And, where'd you kill this one? Right back over there. I never seen that deer before.
Right.
Never see. I don't think he's ever seen
a lot of the deer that are on your they don't venture over that way.
I'm gonna venture to say every deer we've brought over to him that we've killed off that farm, he's never seen, and he owns 40 acres of that block.
Is he running trail cameras?
Yeah.
Like on food,
Yeah,
scrapes?
he's got 2 or 3 of them.
Because you think about it, I mean, you go hunting in a year, how many mature bucks do you actually see from stand? You know, if a good year would be 10, 12 encounters with a mature buck. So, like, if there's 15 mature bucks in and around an area, the chance of you seeing all of them is slim anyways. Then you rely on your trail cameras to get the rest of them and maybe some nighttime driving or whatever. But there are a lot of deer that slip through the cracks. A lot of deer that slip through the cracks. Yep. I've always been very curious about deer's individual ranges. So deer will live together in the spring and summer, but their individual home range is all shaped different. So come fall, this bachelor group of bucks, they just go their own way kind of, you know. And like this deer that was here in this bean field all summer, the way his range is shaped is he just doesn't really spend a lot of time in the fall in this area. He might not even come back to this bean field, or maybe swings through once or twice. But like a mile down the street, my buddy's got him every day now. He's there, you know. But then other deer, they overlap. So I get these 2 bucks I'm seeing every day on trail camera. But he's not seeing any of them, or he only sees the one. Even though I'm seeing both, he's only seeing the one because of the overlap. It's very interesting to me. I wish there was more studies.
Put a bunch of trackers on them.
Yeah, I wish there was more studies.
I wish we had the capabilities to do that, because that would be
I thought about that too.
There's ways theoretically you could get a tracker on a deer.
Yeah, but I think you have to have permission from the state.
Yes, no, it is highly, no, I'm not saying that you can because it's highly illegal. What I'm saying is, like, you could find a way with like a slap wrist bracelet or something, or
an air tag
type thing, get it into a deer or onto a deer's antlers. You can make that work. You know, have food with a bunch of them hanging above the antlers. They're going to get one caught in their antler. You could track its movements for a day or two. Highly illegal, but I wish the DNR or Ohio State University or whatever, Stark State, I wish they would do some studies on Ohio deer in that way, because all our information has to do with Mississippi deer and Michigan deer and Texas deer, because those are the 3
northern
areas.
Ohio is even trickier with the breakup of ag and what little bit of woods there is. Yeah, it's a percentage of the land. Like, how do they bounce between block and block of woods?
Right. And we have the suburb, like, you have to deal with, we're not in a metropolitan area, but there's towns and cities and a lot of houses around here. It's very non-comparable to, say, going down
southern Ohio.
There's
30,000 acres.
Looking at your maps compared to ours, we're probably a little bit more densely populated than you are when it comes to the fields.
But we have more woods. Like, we'd be more like your bottom left or your top right.
Like this. But the road is covered in houses. No matter where you go, where we hunt, the road is covered in houses.
Yeah, that's about every farm. Every road's got.
You guys just might have a little bit bigger blocks than us.
Yeah. We've been getting,
because a lot of times our houses in the block will almost come back and touch each other.
There's more and more every year.
Yeah. It's sad, but it ain't going to get any better around here.
It's like the last frontier out here.
Well, that's kind of wrapping it up. There is a couple things we can bullshit about before we end. You mentioned celebrities. I saw you have a second there. You mentioned something about celebrities. You got some you hate or don't like or love, or what's the deal?
I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. I've had some clients come through here and they've been in camps with some celebrities, and just some of the stories. Generally, overall, whether it be hunting or not hunting, I'm just not a fan. I think it's a waste of money. I think paying attention to anybody on the TV is garbage.
You have to have a certain type of personality to be successful in an area like that,
But I think I'm a bit more holistic than paying attention to celebrities in general. Like sports, it's cool, but why are we paying them so much money?
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing a kid's game. Yeah, they're big, giant, and the best at what they do, but you can't tell me the world can use better things than watching these people do what they do.
Man, the Greeks and Romans, they just killed each other for entertainment. People loved it. So at least we've gotten away from
survival of the fittest.
Yeah, at least we've gotten
the world could use some of that nowadays.
So there's no particular hunting celebrities you're a fan of, per se?
I think there's probably one off the top of my head that bugs me the most, and you probably guess it.
Bomar.
Is it Bomar?
I can't stand seeing
No one
that.
can.
We all hate
I
Bomar.
can't
Nobody
stand
can.
seeing that doofus, man.
I gave him like a little. I learned.
The roided up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
How do I want to say this properly? He'll never listen to this anyways. What does it matter? But when he first came out, I actually enjoyed him when he was in Ohio hunting in
Old
his
school
family's
time.
property, hunting out of blinds, like getting
Makeshift twig blinds and
Yeah,
stuff.
like getting himself into the industry. He was interesting, and then like as they've developed, those two just oh my god! And then
And
when
the
he was on
musclehead.
when he was on Hunter podcast, it gave me a little bit more insight into his background, and it kind of made me accept him a little bit more. And then right after that podcast, he did like 12 more douchebag things, and it's like, nope, I hate him.
He's the ultimate hunting douchebag. You can't
Why is
beat
he
him.
shirtless in
can't
every
be
fucking
beat.
video?
Setting his truck on fire and just dude,
He's the one that puts the. He
I
like
don't-
tries to kill all the flies on his farm. so he
yeah,
puts
I
fly
can't.
traps.
I can't understand how he has the money to do any of this stuff. But
Well,
we
his supplement company makes
Yeah.
millions.
does it?
Millions.
'Cause I seen.
I
on
mean,
the
we're
internet,
talking
they were
10,
in a-
$12 million a year.
They were in a boatload of lawsuits.
They are because they. I've done a little bit of reading. On
We
it.
might want
I'm
to be
actually
careful
not-
because he subpoenaed.
he does
he
sue
subpoenas
people, but you
yeah.
can't sue people for just conjecture and opinion. You can only sue them if you defame the character.
Okay.
But regardless,
Did you go to law school?
no, I've been threatened to be. I've been threatened to be sued.
We do have our
many
names on legal documents
many
every single
times.
day.
Yeah, people try to sue. Like, don't try to sue me. They threaten to sue me from time to time, and then.
We're in the medical field, so those are all legal documents we have to deal with too.
Well, I guess that's. I was talking about the hunting side of things, but what they did is they they misrepresented the amount of like protein and different nutrients that was in their protein powder. They claimed like, I don't know, I'll make a number up, 40% whey protein, and like some companies tested it and found it was like 36%. So they got sued for lying about the number,
Yeah.
which is probably really not their
But
fault. It's just
usually you only get caught in those situations when you're the big guy.
Yeah, right,
So
exactly.
you have hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes.
People are going to start
I mean,
coming after you
they make a lot of money on the non-hunting side. The hunting side is just
for fun.
Just
for fun.
doofusing.
It just keeps up their time. Yeah.
Doofusing is right. That's a good word for it.
I used to not hate Sarah that much.
She's worse.
She got worse. Like she used to kind of just be. And I'm not a misogynist, but she kind of just used to be kind of quiet, do some hunting here and there, and like was a good-looking like female in the industry. But then like the steroids and the muscles and the self-righteousness,
Six packs and the fake boobs and all the bullshit
the
came out.
sluttiness came out. And it's like just nah. I'm just not in on it.
I'm also not huge on social media, but whenever I get on and I scroll across, they somehow always they're on all these other accounts now that like post exclusively their stuff, but it's not under their name. And I'll come across
they're fan
random, I'm like,
clubs.
what? Get out of here.
They're just a topic of conversation in the industry, and they always will be. That's just the way it is.
They're making money.
Oh,
Just
hand
we're
over
talking- we're
fist.
talking about 'em.
Unbelievable.
We're talking
amount
about
of
them
money.
right
Yeah, we're
now.
talking about them right now.
And we've talked about them 10 times, even though we hate them.
Yeah, I mean that's just the that's just the way. It
That's
works.
how they get bigger, right? Just keep talking about them.
Yeah.
I can't. The social media stuff's also kind of disgusting now.
So are you part of the Hunt Quietly movement?
Yeah.
Have you read any of that stuff?
No, I have not, but I'm not big for putting anything out there.
Yeah, Hunt Quietly is basic. Well, Hunt Quietly is deeper. It's Steven Ranella from Meat Eater. It's his
Oh,
brother.
man, Steven Ranella.
So it's his brother who's like anti-hunting media,
So he has a brother that's the complete opposite of him.
I think I read there was something going on.
And they don't talk.
Yeah, they don't.
he was
talk.
just on a podcast talking about it.
So his name is
yeah.
Matt Ranella. He's been getting bigger and bigger in the hunting community for being anti-hunting celebrity, anti-hunting YouTube, anti-hunting show. Like public land access should be kept a secret. Like no one, he's got a weird. His problem is he is now the spokesperson for this kind of thing, and he's radical. So he takes it too far. Obviously, like there's some points of the Hunt quietly mentality that I could see the positives of and don't have a problem with.
He's on the other
but
spectrum
he's like
of
Hitler.
Lars.
He's like full blown Hitler about it. Like everything crazy. Like celebrities should be shot in the streets. Like you're a little bit too much there. But
oh man,
yeah,
I'm not a big fan. I film things and enjoy it and just show like trueness.
yeah.
In everything you do, and
But
the
poaching deer for the likes.
the over glorification of it all now, and
Yeah.
like what our favorite people have become, and
Yeah.
just seeing that stuff out there, it just rubs me the wrong way. It's just not what it's about, in my opinion. you see this place. This is a deer camp driven place. It's friends, even though they're clients and they're paying clients. Like I have relationships with them now. Yeah. I text them outside of deer season. They text me outside of deer season. It's, I don't know. There's a huge aspect of nature and being outdoors that's missing when you get too far into.
I mean, it's just like anything else. The more that a sport, subject, interest, hobby, whatever, the more it grows and becomes more accepted and more people are involved, there more little offshoots and weird parts of it and things we don't like about it end up rearing up, when it's a small, back in the 1980s and 90s when there was 3 people making hunting videos, it was just so cool. Like the 3 guys putting out their turkey hunts. Let's just watch it. It's awesome. Well, now there's 300,000 people putting out turkey hunts, and some of them are really bad. Some of them are like really dishonest. Some of them are awesome. Like it's a microcosm of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to talk about Medina County hunters, I got nothing.
Medina County hunters.
So we're
into this.
What did you say that like you noticed about it that was?
I was on there the one day. There's some event everybody was talking about something or another, and there's a bunch of people bickering about who could come. Who couldn't
it was
come,
probably
the measure off parties. Yeah. So it used to be we had for a while there we were doing like banquets, which would be like a whitetail. You picture what a whitetail unlimited banquet is. We were doing that and then donating the money to charity, and a lot of people would come to it. We got away from doing that because it was a lot of work and there was some issues here and there.
Yeah, the nonprofit fell through and stuff like that.
So long story short, we started doing a deer contest every year. And if you signed up for the deer contest in September or prior to the season, you were able to come to people call it a banquet still, but it was more of just like a dinner. Like we were getting together. It started out at someone's barn, and then we used the VFW, and then we went to a bar. And you just get together, drink some beers, hang out, talk about your deer, get them scored. We had the Buckeye Big Buck Club there and stuff. Well, what happened was towards the end of the year when it was getting close to the time to have that event, there was a whole bunch of people who didn't sign up, weren't members of the page, weren't paying attention, or didn't want to spend the money early, who now wanted to go to that. So they were mad when it was exclusive to only the people that signed up. That was part of the issue. And then,
well, now they know they need to sign up.
Well, when you get a group, just like I said before, you get a group. When there was 100 people in the group or 500 people in the group, easy to manage. Everyone got along. It was fun. It was simple. Now we're 2,000. Personalities,
and half
money.
The problem is a lot of people in the group know each other and they're friends and they know each other for years and years. And then you have the people looking in from the outside trying to decipher. We're talking to Jason about this, but it's because we've known him for 15 years. And it's not just the page.
In that 10-year period, there's people that were friends that aren't friends now. There's
lots of drama on there.
It's just like anything else. There's so many people now, and it's so deep and embedded and been around for so long. It's 10 years old now, I think.
It's a Facebook page.
Yeah. So
the Wellington page is pretty funny, too.
I
find some humor in scrolling in the local pages and seeing some disputes between people thinking, man, you just go knock on their door. They live probably less than 100 yards away.
Yeah. So there's just drama, and it is what it is. But yeah, I mean that's gonna probably wrap this one up.
Yeah, that was a good podcast.
What we at?
Hour and 48 minutes.
Damn, that's a longer one.
Yeah, one of the cameras died.
Yeah, I would say that camera's dead. So we're down to only this view.
You didn't get to do a walk around.
Yeah, well,
I still got.
We got plenty of batteries and stuff. But
yeah, cool.
Thank you, Nico, for having us out. It was a great conversation.
Talked about a lot of things. Yeah. There's so much to talk about.
Oh, I would love. I tell everyone this we have on the podcast that we enjoy, but you'd be the perfect guy to have on again after your season's over to talk about like, oh, we had a client shoot this, client shoot that. This worked this year. Those water holes you guys talked about, man, damn, those were awesome.
And it is cool seeing a different side of things because we don't get to talk to outfitters per se.
This is the first one ever.
Yeah,
first one. Yeah, hopefully the only
Most
one.
of them
you
are
get
assholes.
that other guy in there.
I'm not gonna get the other guy.
Never.
Nope, he's gonna mean mug me at the bar on Wednesday. I guarantee you when I see him. But
yep. Well, thanks for being on this Deer Shop podcast episode. Not sure. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, appreciate it.